Over.
All righty. Good morning, guys.
Morning, sir.
I guess if you're way in the Far East. Well, where to begin? This is a government operation, United States Armed Forces. I was a private citizen up until a couple of years ago when they came to me and brought me the news that I was being selected for the commander of the civilian armed forces. I was running a global business at the time with my wife, and we had reached into some 72 countries. Carlson Development's the name of the company, Carlson Development Global. And we specialize in real estate development, eco smart cities, eco pods, prime energy, alternate energy, basically in the function of building the new society. We pretty much got ourselves to the point where we can build anything from scratch, complete cities from the ground up. And that's our contracts around the world, is doing just that. Our political bent was one world, one people, peace and prosperity. That is our company's motto. And we kind of took that on a global mission of peace as we were doing businesses with heads of state, royal families, and so forth. That apparently got the attention of the U.S. Armed Forces at a time of their need, when the government of the United States was corrupt. We had the Clinton cartel overthrow an election in 2016, and the military stepped in to supersede that election and placed Donald Trump in office for January of 2017. We were contacted in December of 2016 and given an update on the cartel situation and the coup attempt that had gone on, and the fact that the military had separated itself from the United States as a separate entity. Constitutionally speaking, when the government is corrupt, the military can go about its business in the way that it sees fit. They must have a civilian commander, and that's where I came into play. They didn't have a civilian commander. They didn't have a president. They didn't have a commander in chief. They had themselves. As was explained, the civilian commander is separate from the presidency. Presidency is basically a documents position. They take care of the everyday, day-to-day paperwork, and we take care of the military. Our job is to make sure that the troops are protected and safe overseas and or at home and or at time of war. We haven't been to war since the 2016 election and or since we've been put into office. We've actually withdrawn from territories around the world. We've kind of made it our point that it's peace and prosperity at all costs. And to have this one world, one people vision, that warring stops on planet Earth and that we unite as one front. That's been our mission since we took office. We still recognize that mission with what's going on in the current situation in Ukraine. We've got negotiations back channel with Russia. We have some established with China. We're doing our best to work with BRICS nations straight up front. Their general cause is our general cause, which is eliminating the Western financial system, the corruption, the cabal that's behind it, and the unnecessary level of theft that has gone on around the world, as well as child trafficking. We're trying to put a stop to all of that behind the scenes, mostly U.S. government based or backed, also the Vatican and some other entities around the world, the Clinton cartel, as I mentioned, the Soros Foundation, the Gates Foundation, the Chinese CCP government, and their attempt to overthrow our country. We have put China unnoticed. We have China surrounded. We have everything that we could possibly use right now is being utilized as far as the U.S. Armed Forces are concerned on a global level. We are fighting a war against an enemy that doesn't quite exist the way they used to. It doesn't have borders. It doesn't have all the artillery that you would normally recognize a military to have. It is an enemy that is using things like vaccinations against the people. This enemy has actually set itself out to eliminate more population than World War I, World War II combined, and or even visions of World War III. A combined effort of taking away 3/4 or more of the world's population in population control methods using viruses. We've been at this for going on 6 years now, and we're coming close to an end of the movie. The movie has been taking place all around the world in various governments around the world, mostly connected through things like the UN and the Davos, places where the Gates Foundation and the Soros Foundation had their fingers deep into. We are coming to the end, hopefully, with the election that's coming up here in the United States, that we will have a deciding factor of one way or to go or the other, that we should have either a clean election that we can trust, or we don't have any elections whatsoever. Right now, I would bet on the latter of the part, that we probably won't have a clean election, but we're doing our best to try to obtain one. If we are unsuccessful, then the plan goes to plan B, which is martial law and military overthrow of the government. That's the plan that we're trying to avoid. We're trying to keep our casualty count down to a minimum. We don't want conflict with any particular country around the world. We don't want war to erupt anywhere around the world. We're trying to do a peaceful transition and take away the deep state and or cabal power while doing this at the same time. We've managed to infiltrate large portions of the world's population and cut the heads off the snake in many places around the world. We've got a little ways to go yet. There's a few million minions that we're having to deal with, but we're catching up. What caused us to form? The lack of trust in government between the two-party system that is completely broken here in the United States and or around the world, and the desperate need for a government that the people can trust and that the people of the world can trust. That it appears from when we were put in for global dominancy of the United States Armed Forces, that triggers a much bigger picture on a global level, and leaving us in charge of nations that I really wasn't expecting. We started out on a mission of obtaining 50 state ministers. Each minister would be representing government. This is a secondary government. We're not attempting to overthrow the government. We're attempting to establish a secondary government for if and or when the collapse of the current system takes place. The current system, I don't expect to last much longer. Hence the question of when and or if martial law comes into play, and or if the secondary government that we have established actually has a place. Our goal is to try to meet the demand. We're a little short. We're at least 20 or more national ministers short or state ministers short. We're actually doing really good on the nationwide scale, even though we didn't have a goal for those. We have, I guess we're 42 to 53, depending upon the number you look at of countries that we've got under our belt when we need 50 states. We've run out of time. Our election is coming up here in just about a week. And that's what's going to make the decision, our decision on what to do next, whether or not we will succeed in an election attempt without interference, and we'll be able to transition the power quietly and peacefully, or we will have a situation where the troops have to hit the streets and we have to conduct ourselves on a global scale of martial law. Now to meet the crew you've met, this is just the beginning. We've only been out since July, basically 8th, is when we went public with the USAFCC channel. We're not attempting to gain publicity necessarily. It's been a covert operation all this time. We're trying to get enough people to obtain a goal of our secondary government, and that's our main focus, not a popularity contest. Although we do need to let people know what's been going on. The world needs to know what's been going on behind the scenes. The populace needs to know exactly what their governments have been up to. It's going to take a little bit of unveiling, but the information's out there. It's not secret. You can do YouTube research and or other media and find videos of what it is I'm talking about, from the January 21st or January 14th overthrow of the US government in 21 to present day Washington, D.C., where the city is fenced off and the troops are in the streets. Now we're just waiting on the big call this coming week and what the election holds for the United States. But in the meantime, we're doing our best to put as many people in place as we possibly can to address the outcome of the election. The people that are in the KOA, the minister's positions, are intended to hold their position through a governorship and be that backbone that's there when the system that we have collapses. We're trying to keep as much in place as possible, but like I said, at this particular point, the military is going to be involved deeply.
Just
and
one point I want to raise here, because something that was very clear to me early on was the fact that Biden, first of all, the election in 2020 had no real value because they were voting for a president of a bankrupt corporation. And Biden is the president of a bankrupt corporation. And that's like me saying I'm still the owner of a company that's been declared bankrupt. It was declared bankrupt in 2018. It was finalized in 2021. And people can see those records in Companies House. Everything is quite clear there. And then there was a period of time where nobody quite knew on the truth side what was happening. And I managed to find out from my military contact that in March 2021, the top people in the military were looking at Donald Trump not as the president, but as their commander-in-chief from that perspective. Now, you mentioned the word that you're the civilian commander-in-chief. So I can,
that's correct.
And it's whether we can define the difference between Trump as the commander-in-chief that the military look to for advice, and you as a commander-in-chief from a civilian perspective. Can you enlighten my audience?
Yes, realistically speaking, he's the president of the military. The military swore him in at the same time as Biden was being sworn out, or supposedly his inauguration. At Edwards Air Force Base, Trump was being sworn in as the president legitimate at the same time as Biden was to be sworn in as the president legitimate. It never happened for Biden. Biden never was sworn in as commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces, nor was he sworn in as president of the United States. The president has been, to my understanding, all this time, ever since then, has been Donald Trump. Trump is the one that they're protecting as president. But the commander of the military civilian commander is me.
And that's backed up by what Derek Johnson said to me yesterday, that they've now put a huge no-fly zone around Mar-a-Lago, and there is not no-fly zone around the White House or Washington, D.C. for that matter.
Correct.
Yeah, I think even till May.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, the Washington, D.C. no-fly zone has been pretty much disrespected since about January 14th of 21.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we rolled troops into Washington.
Well, that's right. And as far as I'm aware I've had first-hand information on at least 7 different occasions that the White House has been used for military tribunals, because I know a number of people that have gone in there as witnesses and come back and told me so.
Yeah, Washington, D.C. has been used for tribunals as well as Gitmo.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is a very important point because certainly from my perspective, I appreciate a group of people like yourselves who are providing a safety net right now, because there'll be a lot of people in complete panic, because we will see, and I was told on very good authority that many countries will go under martial law, 86 I was told, in the next 3 months. We've seen that happen in Kuwait in the last 48 hours with the collapse of the Kuwaiti government. We're seeing that the people standing up in Brazil against another rigged election. We're seeing in the United Kingdom 25 hotels in central London filled with military. Nobody's got an explanation for it. We're seeing it all roll out at the moment. And of course, when it happens, people will need some form of stability. And this is where you guys come in here, as to providing a network of people that can lead people through the mayhem.
Yeah, that's the more interesting thing, is that being left to this position has left me baffled that such a large operation or such a large void has been left behind for the people to fill, and nobody has stepped up to fill it. And that includes from the Trump camp, where if Trump was really all this and all that, he's had every opportunity to start a third party. He's got enough following to actually wipe both parties, the floor with both parties. He's got a following that he could utilize to run for office in 2024 or run candidates in 2022, but never has broken away from the mainstream Republican Party, which is just as corrupt as the Democrat Party. Now, granted, one smells a little worse than the other one, but at the end of the day, they both have major amounts of corruption to them. The Republican Party never really supported Trump. The Democrat Party definitely didn't support Trump. They're both working together to try to get rid of Trump even to this day. And Washington, D.C., the corruption is so bad that they spend all of their time going after each other and no longer worrying about the American people.
Well, that ties in perfectly with what I've been saying for the last 2 years, that both the Republican Party and Democrat Party, conservative and Labour and liberal and all the rest of them, will disappear